I was just walking in the woods and talking to myself like I sometimes do, and anyway, I wanted to share some thoughts on why I believe in God, and in some ways what I see the difference being between like myself as a theist and atheists. So I used to believe the kind of dualistic worldview that's common in our Western culture, that there's God out there somewhere, and then there's like us here on earth. And God's out there, God's up in heaven, and we're on earth, and you know, they're separate. And it's kind of this idea of there being like an invisible sky daddy kind of thing. Now, in some ways, I do believe that God the Father is not directly perceivable to us, and instead it's his Son, Christ, who, aka the Word of God, that was spoken in the beginning. In the beginning, God said, "Let there be light, let there be, let there be." God said, God said, God said. The word that God spoke in the beginning was the Word of God, by definition. And that word is essentially, I believe, the universe that we're living in. You know, Colossians 1:15 says Christ is the firstborn of all creation. I don't think there was ever a time where Christ did not exist, because I think God has always been creating. God's the artist, the Son is the art. If the artist has always been creating, then the art has always been being created. Okay, so I used to have this idea, though, of like there's God somewhere else, invisible, and then like, you know, we're here. And so like the atheistic argument I often heard was, you know, you believe in this invisible being, and where's the evidence of that? And from where I'm standing now, you know, it's, well, all of this world is actually, I believe, God, or at least part of God. I'm not saying that I believe the physical universe is the entirety of God, so to speak. But I also don't believe the physical universe, so to speak, is separate from the spiritual world. I think that they're interconnected kind of thing. So, okay, so we're both looking, say me and an atheist, we're both looking at this universe, and we're both saying, okay, the universe exists. So what's the difference between me and an atheist at this point? Well, I think the core idea, the core difference is that I would argue that God / universe, at least being a subset of God, is intelligent, conscious, something to that effect. I should probably think more clearly about those words, but I believe that the universe is conscious / intelligent. And atheists don't. And so the way I look at it, though, is I say, okay, well, the fractal nature of reality, which seems to be kind of like the law of the land, you might say. Everything seems to be fractal. I mean, look around at these trees, you know, they're all fractals, and people pop out of other people, women. There's fractals everywhere. The fractal nature of reality seems to be central. It's interesting that God's name is I am that I am, which is a beautifully fractal name. Anyway, okay, fractal nature of reality. What does that mean? That means, in some ways, you can look at the parts to look at the whole. Kind of like a hologram, where, you know, in a hologram, any piece of the holographic image actually has the entire picture in it, just in a small piece. Just as our cells, every cell in our body has our DNA, which is essentially the building blocks of our entire body. Every piece has the whole kind of in it. So one thing you can do with fractals is you can essentially look down to look up. So, you know, I can look down literally at the ground, and I can see, you know, bugs, and I can see, well, through microscopes, I can see these tiny little things that are so much smaller than me, and I can say, well, as much smaller as those things are than me, well, there are entities and stuff like that that are that much bigger than me. At the very least, things like stars and all that, which obviously we know is true. But also, I can say, okay, well, I am actually the universe, or a part of it, and I can look at myself and say, well, I am conscious and I have intelligence. So fractally speaking, the universe is conscious and intelligent. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with why I think it's quite reasonable to believe in God, as, the universe is not just this random, chaotic, unconscious, unintelligent clockwork of particle interactions and stuff like that. I'm saying, no, I think it seems like, well, fractally speaking, I am conscious, therefore the universe is conscious. Now, granted, I think a fair argument against what I'm saying might be, well, as far as we know, we humans are the highest intelligence / consciousness, and maybe we don't think that the stars are conscious and the earth is conscious. And that may be, and it could be that, it could even be that we humans are God's highest expression of consciousness and intelligence, but that doesn't quite make sense. It doesn't seem like the way it is to me intuitively. I mean, it seems like there is quite a bit of design, and I obviously, as a human, don't understand how to build machines nearly as amazing and sophisticated as my own human body. So that would seem to be evidence in and of itself that there is some higher consciousness / intelligence. But also, I realize that, again, looking at things fractally, I can look down to look up, and I can look down and I can think about how there's going to be microbes. Say microbes that are within my gut. If they had consciousness, and I think, by the way, I do lean toward panpsychism, the idea that all is actually conscious. But if microbes within my stomach or whatever that are conscious, if they could communicate and ask each other, hey, is the world that we're living in conscious or intelligent? They would definitely say no, because from their perspective, if all they're seeing is my stomach or my inner intestinal lining, they're not gonna probably be able to notice any of the stuff I'm doing. That I don't know if they might notice alcohol consumption at certain frequencies or something like that. Oh, watch out, but I'm on a completely different wavelength, so to speak, both temporally, I live over a much larger time span than those microbes would, and also spatially, I operate on a spatial scale that is completely out of band to their processing. Yeah, I think of a lot of things in terms of waves and that kind of stuff. And, it's like with radios. I mean, if your radio is tuned to 107 megahertz, 107 FM or something, you won't receive anything on even on 98 on FM, or very, very close frequencies. But if you're out of band, you will not receive the signal from other frequencies. And I'm saying the sun could be conscious for all we know. There's a bug on the camera, I think. What happened? Whatever. The sun, the stars could be conscious for all we know. I mean, we look at them and we say, oh, it's just a big blob of burning gas. But a creature inside of our intestines might say, oh, it's just a giant like lipid encasing or something like that. That's how they might think of us, just like we kind of sometimes think about stars as just giant burning balls of gas. But I mean, like the stars operate, or the Earth even, right? It's so much bigger than us, and it operates on spatial and temporal scales that are orthogonal to ours, to where we cannot receive the signals. If they were trying to talk, it would be like kind of the Ents in Lord of the Rings or something, where but obviously way different frequencies. I mean, the sun is so much bigger than us. The Earth is so much bigger than us. The universe is so much bigger than us. If they were conscious, like literally, we couldn't tell. And I'm saying, I think that God is conscious and intelligent, and just because you cannot directly perceive a consciousness or intelligence that is way higher than yours does not mean it does not exist. And I mean, that statement is literally true, because like no doubting, because I mean, I think you could agree with me. I mean, microbes or bugs, us humans would be incomprehensible to them. We operate so high above them in complexity and in temporal and spatial frequencies or scales. They wouldn't have a hope of really being able to tune in, so to speak, to our consciousness and intelligence. And I'm saying it could very well be that way with God. That doesn't necessarily prove it, but I'm saying I think it makes a good argument for it. So, in short, I think fractally a good bit, and that's how I think about I am who I am.